Hello, class. Today I am speaking about a subject that is not designed for children. So be warned. Today we are going back in history to learn about an important true crime event. In honor of the upcoming St. Valentine's Day, I bring you the St. Valentines Day Massacre. Little known fact about me. I am a true crime obsessed person. I also graduated with a degree in criminal justice for my undergrad. Before kids, I wanted to be a cop. However, here I am, and I am now a teacher. But I'm still fascinated by a true crime story. So let's go back to the year 1929 on February 14th to the city of Chicago. It is the time of the flapper and jazz music. Almost the end of the Roaring Twenties and the time of prohibition and gangsters. It was a cold day. In fact, records show that it was max 24 degrees. And 4 inches of snow had hit the ground the day before. The massacre took place around 10:30 in the morning on Thursday, February 14th, on Chicago's north side. 2 major gangs fought over the territory. Notorious Al Scarface Capone and his South Side gang, and then George Bugs Moran, who headed up the North Side gang. It is believed that Al Capone came up with this plan to eliminate his competition. He wanted the North Side for bootlegging, prostitution, dog racing, and other gambling. Moran had been attempting to take control of Capone's operations after rising to the top of the gang, after years of bloody fights between the 2 gangs. St. Valentine's Day would prove to be the climax of the 2 gangs' war. Al Capone was reported to be in Miami, Florida at the time. However, violence was something the authorities had suspected of Al Capone for years. In 1924, authorities counted 16 gang-related homicides that they suspected of him. And the trend was continued throughout the rest of the 20s. Leading up to this day in question. However, as I stated before, Al Capone was most definitely in Florida, Miami, Florida, at the time. Remember, this was before modern technology. Fingerprints were just becoming useful, but at the very same time, it was consuming work and hard to do without modern day computers. Ballistic testing was a new field. However, there were no CCTV cameras or internet with emails or text messages. Telephone calls could not be traced or recorded. Being in Miami, Florida was a solid alibi for Capone, especially for that time period. The only way it could be traced to him is if somebody talked. And it was the mafia. No one talked. Back to the day in question. It all started about 10:30 a.m. at 2122 North Clark Street Garage, where Bugs Moran was said to run his bootlegging operations. It was in this garage that 7 members of Moran's gang were lined up, facing a wall and shot to death. They were shot with 70 rounds of ammunition from a Thompson submachine gun. One member of the gang, Frank Gusenberg, was still alive after being shot 14 times when the police arrived at the scene, but he refused to talk and died shortly after. The police could only find a few eyewitnesses, but what the eyewitnesses said was that they saw men dressed in police uniforms enter the garage. 2 men, to be exact, and 2 in plain clothes. It is believed that the fake policeman ordered the 7 men to line up against the wall in a way that police would order those they were about to arrest. The policemen carried shotguns. The 2 plainclothesmen operated the Thompson submachine guns, which they continued firing even after all 7 men had hit the ground. They sprayed their victims from left to right. 2 of the men, John May and James Clark, were hit in the face by shotgun blast, according to the coroner. The man Capone most wanted to take out, Moran, was not at the garage. He was running late because he had just gotten a haircut. Yes, a haircut saved this man's life. One of his men, Albert Weinshank, was reportedly wearing the same color overcoat and hat Moran often wore. Plus, they were similar in build. It is possible that Capone's men thought they had Moran. I found in at least one source that he saw the police cars outside the garage and, thinking that it was a raid, turned around and left. That's how close it was for him. To this day is considered an unsolved murder. However, after an investigation, police did announce the arrest of suspected Capone gunman John Scalise and Albert Anselmi, as well as Jack McGurn and Frank Rio, a Capone bodyguard. Both Scalise and Anselmi would die in May the same year, and supposedly at the hands of Capone. He had apparently learned that the men meant to kill him. Convenient, if you ask me. Lack of evidence led the police to drop charges against Jack McGurn for the massacre as well. No charges were ever brought against Capone for this act, although Moran would tell a newspaper that the only man who kills like this is Capone. Reportedly, once he was tracked down in Florida, Capone would also say the same thing to newspapers down there. The garage itself was demolished in 1967 and is now a parking lot for a nursing home. Of course, Capone would eventually be taken down for tax fraud in 1931 and sentenced to 11 years. Eventually, he would find his way to Alcatraz. In 1939, he would be moved to a mental institution to serve out the remainder of his sentence. He would die from a stroke in 1947 and also had untreated syphilis. Bugs Moran was arrested in 1946 after a failed bank robbery. After being released in 1956, he was then arrested again for a previous bank robbery. He died in prison from lung cancer in 1957. This still remains one of the most notorious unsolved true crimes of American history. There is still some debate as to whether the policemen involved were real or fake. Some accounts state that they were real policemen retaliating for a hit on a fellow policeman's family. However, none of that has been substantiated or definitively tied to the crime, and it remains unsolved to this day. Hope you enjoyed this bit of history. I hope to include some more historical American true crime from time to time on my channel. Let me know below if you know of any crimes that I should talk about, and I'll gladly look into it. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon. As always, keep on learning. Stay safe. Bye.